we have a real deal freaking football game to talk about here. We've got Cowboys at Eagles coming up on Thursday night. We got a 47.5 point over under. Pretty nice. I think this game actually could go higher than that, but we'll get into it. Eagles are 8.5 point favorites. So, Nate, any big news between one of these teams happen lately?
No.
I don't know. Two couple under the radar outfits.
Yeah,
not a lot to talk about.
Shouldn't this game be on Sunday afternoon? Shouldn't this game?
Is this a 1 p.m.
on Fox? Yeah, usually this is the Sunday afternoon Fox game. No, I think the Cowboys may have traded away their best player. And I think
maybe
the Eagles. I think the Eagles may have won something last year. So two teams. I know we usually don't. We might touch on them on Football 301 once in a while. You might see the Yahoo social team clip it when we do talk about a couple of these teams. But sometimes, not big fan bases. No,
they
Cowboys
definitely. The Yahoo Sports social team didn't just tweet out one of us jackasses saying Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP this year. Well, that definitely didn't happen. So don't worry about that.
just take it. Take the eat. No, pretty interesting game between these two. The spread's got a little big, 8.5 with the Eagles, but I do think, it's a division rival. It's week 1. These teams have a lot of time to prep. And I also think, even when we talk about Micah Parsons and everything, the Cowboys offense still got some juiciness to it. So that I think, and this in the Eagles defense that is figuring out a couple spots. I'm actually writing about this game. Mm-hmm. It was a compromise to write about this game. I'll tell you after the pod about what I was supposed to write about. But it's related to an Eagles quarterback. But when I was watching when I'm looking at this team or looking at this game, it's that I do think the Eagles defense will be a top 10 defense when it's all said and done. I do think Vic Fangio takes a little bit of time always to kind of like figure out his final form. And then they peak up and become a top 3, top 2, top 1 defense. Like I think they'll be division opponent. And I know Schottenheimer wasn't the head coach last year, but he was on that Cowboys staff. He's worked with Dak Prescott, so they're going to have some familiarity. So yeah, just a very interesting game, even if it's an 8.5 point spread. But yes, two marquee teams that we talk a lot about.
Right. And again, Cowboys defense obviously does not have Micah Parsons. If you're just, coming out from your hole in the ground, shout out to you. Micah Parsons is getting a big fat paycheck to play for the team that took their lunch in the NFC playoffs a couple of years ago, the Green Bay Packers. So, but Trayvon Diggs, Tyler Guyton are good to go. That's great news for the secondary, which I think is a huge question mark for this Dallas Cowboys defense. We'll see. I don't really know what the hell to make of this Cowboys defense and just the Matt Eberflus of it all, because, and this is going to lead to some of my props here that I'm going to give up, but this is typically, and look, always dangerous in week 1 being like, well, based on what Eberflus has done in the past, but he's typically been a pretty straight, like, soft zone cover 2 type player. I mean, type defense. That's the play caller he's been. And I think some of these corners are a little bit more, you might want him in more like bump and run type situations. Like Trayvon Diggs is one of those guys, Deron Bland might be one of those guys. Like Kyrie Elam can't really do anything. So we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, man, I just think it's really interesting to watch that secondary against a receiver room and a passing game that's very, very good.
Right. It's just I'm looking at this offense too, and look at the Cowboys team. I just want to figure out who is running the ball. And I'm not sure exactly. I don't want to spoil my props either. So do you want to just dive into it? Because I just do, I think using that will allow me to expand upon my thoughts on both of the units as well too. Because I'm writing about it. Because you mentioned the Eberflus defense going against the Eagles. So the only time Jalen Hurts has played against an Eberflus defense was in 2022 when Eberflus was the head coach of the Bears. Hurts did not have a great game. He ended up having 2 picks. His success rate was in the mid 30%. Usually league average is about 45% in the game. He ran for 3 touchdowns, off the sneaks and everything. Had a lot of rushing attempts as well. So that's what I'll get into one of my props, which was Jalen Hurts over 9.5 rushing attempts. Not only just sneaks, but scrambles. What Eberflus likes to play, like you said, all the soft zone that he has, that he likes to deploy is kind of made Hurts launch a lot of throws. 48% of his pass attempts traveled 10 or more air yards in that game. And that was just because he just launched go balls. He's like, I got one-on-one on the outside against cover 3 or cover 4. I'm just going to take my one-on-ones and go. And it led to kind of an up and down day. The Bears had pretty good corners that year as well. So it was just one of those things that they were testing him. He didn't really throw a lot underneath other than screens. It was just launching stuff, hoping, and they caught a couple, but then also some turnovers happened as well. Eberflus also brought a lot of blitzes, more coverage zero than he typically did. So that's why I think maybe Hurts scrambles a good amount. Might take one of those, those zone coverages. I don't got that one-on-one. All right, then I'm going to scramble a little bit, get some maybe design runs as well against Cowboys defensive line that, right now, shaking my hands at them right now. So I just that was my first prop that I looked at, because I just think that the natural deployment of the defense, I think that's what Hurts is. They're gonna have success through the air. I really do think that, and on the ground, but I do think that he will have some success on the ground, or not success on the ground. We'll try to run quite a bit.
Yeah, because one of my props was maybe the under on his 35.5 rushing yards was Jalen Hurts. I'll never bet the under on a rush attempts prop on Jalen Hurts, because you can just get banged with the tush push, which is what I'm saying to say.
Sneaks.
Yep, you can just get banged on the tush push over and over again. Like, I'm 9.5 under rush attempts. He could have like 3 in one goal line sequence, and then I'm just really working from behind. Just it's a mess. Like I always try, if I'm gonna go under on Hurts rushing, it usually will be the yards. And to me though, I thought it's gonna be okay. He's gonna have time in the pocket, because obviously they still got some decent edge rushers, and they have a lot of gap shooters at defensive tackles. They got a lot of gap shooters. They don't have like a real run plugger, which Jerry Jones has made us known that they need to get better.
100 times.
many times since Thursday. Which is funny, like Kenny Clark's not even like I just block up the, like, he's been more in his best years, he's been kind of like a gap shooter at times. So just weird all the way around. But got gap shooters at DT. On the edge, they've got they do still have some edge depth, but I still think the advantage goes to the Eagles offensive line there. And even if Diggs is back, he's still coming back from an injury. Producer Colin, who, like, by the way, Producer Colin's already in the coping corner, with the Dallas Cowboys. It took him to like week 9 last year, not even week 1. Just put Colin in the coping corner when it comes to the Cowboys. He's writing in the doc about how Kyer Elam balled in camp. Okay, pal. I think he's gonna have plenty of time, Jalen Hurts, to sit back in the pocket and find open throws down the field. I'm going to be a hypocrite here and say, like, who got some pop in camp? Even Jahan Dotson got some pop in camp. He's going to be a useful player for them this year. So I'm being a hypocrite here saying that. But still, like, I think this Eagles pass game can just roll in week 1 against this Cowboys defense, which to me, like, Hurts is not going to have to take off and run too much, because I think he'll have time in the pocket. But you are giving me some pause thinking about those, like, gap shooting interior defensive linemen, and he just slips past one and runs one for like 12 yards, and then I'm almost like halfway screwed there.
Yeah, I don't think maybe it's all going to be huge explosive runs and like game-changing runs, but maybe some of those first down, third down runs, the sneaks, like you mentioned, the tush push is always artificially inflated as well. Maybe a couple more design reads. They kind of have gone away from that, the design run game with Jalen Hurts, but maybe they implement that a little bit more, knowing, hey, we're going against some iffy edges, so maybe we can catch them, reading it wrong. I should say iffy edges. They're okay. Like, but it's just more, okay. It's not Micah Parsons who also was like, would beat up Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are fantastic offensive tackles. Micah Parsons still would have great pressure numbers against 2 of the best tackles in the NFL. That's how good Micah Parsons is. But that would also be in Jalen Hurts' head. So he would just start looking to scramble right away and break and contain. Like you say, if he's hanging in the pocket, I think he's going to be able, just how this offense, it's not very hard to read this defense. It's more about making the quarterback patient. But if you're not taking away, the explosives in the run game, then they have no incentive. They can just go, whatever. They don't feel that consternation that this defense is supposed to make the offense feel. So that's where I just think he's going to be able to find some answers, even if there's going to be some inconsistencies against the zone.
Yeah, this is a fun game to talk about here, because from a fantasy standpoint, it's like, who do you start? You start all the main dudes, and you don't really start anybody else. So it kind of allows us to talk about these props with these bigger name players. So we did it with the Eagles. Let's flip it over to the Cowboys offense side here, because you mentioned this Eagles defense. We are obviously we're expecting this to be one of the better defenses in the NFL, though defenses can regress year to year. They have a lot of superstar talent. But you mentioned there are some spots where they're still trying to figure it out here, which is why I do think they can have some success, Ken Dallas, in the passing game. The Dak Prescott over pass attempts, I think, is very live. 36.5. It's minus 130, though. So a lot of juice on that. But I think this Cowboys pass game can find some success here against this Eagles defense.
I do too. And I also think it's going to be a quick game, heavy passing game. Where it's going to be quicker passes, meaning more pass attempts, because you're just getting more and more yards, not as chunk heavy. Also might be playing from behind and might be going against a front seven that's got some beef and some good players on it that might, de-incentivize the Cowboys to run the ball over and over and over and over with insert name at running back. Not even sure how those touches are going to split out and whether they're going to be efficient, even if they're going to want to. I like the over 36.5 passing attempts because I was kind of looking at the same thing. So when I was doing the research for this game, Dak has played against Vic Fangio 3 times, 3 different stops as well, which is great for making a nice, concise writing, I might add, if I can complain right now. But 2016, he was against the Bears. God, it was like, oh, this is a whole paragraph explaining this. 2016 against the Bears, 2021 when he was the head coach of the Broncos. So Prescott, the first game and the third game, really, really good. Second game played like crap. And looking at those games though, and how he played against it, Fangio and Eberflus have some of the same tendencies where they play a lot of zone, a lot of quarter shell that rotate down to cover 3, and Dak Prescott targeted his tight ends a ton. And that's kind of like where he would work. He wasn't really launching balls down the field. We'll see if that changes with Pickens, but he was just willing. Dak will do this. And that's why I like Dak. Pepper at 5 yards, 8 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards. And he's willing to be patient. So I went with Jake Ferguson over 33.5 yards. It's minus 125, but I do think he's going to get peppered and quite a bit. I do think that they'll rotate. CeeDee Lamb will get some action, but Cooper DeJean plays in the slot. Cooper DeJean had the lowest amount of yards per target last year among any defender with 50 or more targets. And he was very, very good in the slot. He snuffed out targets to the slot. That's why this defense excelled. But I think the tight end, working against linebackers, Bond's good and fine in coverage, but he's not great. You can find the soft spots there. So I think Jake Ferguson's going to get peppered a good amount on top of some other stuff. And over 50 yards is plus 200 if you're feeling frisky with Jake Ferguson. But that's where I kind of want some of my actions going first is Jake Ferguson targets.
I like that. I also saw you had George Pickens anytime touchdown on there.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into that yet.
No,
every highlight from Cowboys camp was George Pickens getting targeted in the end zone on some designer play for him. And I think the biggest weakness on this Eagles defense is corner 2. They're going to find some design where they get him isolated on corner 2 or wrap something, some high-low. So Pickens anytime's touchdown at plus 190. I didn't want to know if I want to go yards with him or catches with him. So I went A-tie touchdown because that's where I think he's going to thrive with Dak.
Yeah, and like Adoree Jackson's that corner 2 for the Eagles right now. Like that's been like a bit of a competition. And Quinyon Mitchell's a guy that just he's one of those guys that stays on one side of the field. And I think there's going to be a lot like after watching, just going back and recently just charting CeeDee Lamb, there's just so many ways that I think these guys can like stacked together, where it's like CeeDee Lamb's starts outside as the off-ball player, kicks inside last minute. Cause I know that Schottenheimer wants to do like more shifts and stuff like that. And then again, Pickens, those guys are right next to each other. There's going to be some open opportunities for Pickens. And then the third receiver can, again, just be like occupying Quinyon Mitchell on the other side of the field. Maybe they change things up, but based on last year's usage, that's probably going to be the cornerback situation for this team. I have a sick pup prop to give out for the Dallas Cowboys offense. You mentioned who's going to be running the ball for this team, Nate. How about their wide receiver 1, CeeDee Lamb, over 0.5 rushing yards at plus 115. Plus 115, you can get this bad boy. All you got to get is 1 yard. Last year, top 5 rush attempts at the wide receiver position. Deebo Samuel, 42. Jaden Reed, 20. Xavier Worthy, 20. Kevontae Turpin, by the way, want to count him as a wide receiver, 16. CeeDee Lamb, 14 rush attempts.
It's always been his thing.
Yeah. It was surprising again. It's maybe this is just because it's fresh in my brain because I just literally was charting CeeDee Lamb, and I'm gonna put if you want a little free reception perception profile, I'm gonna put that bad boy out tomorrow, Thursday morning, so people can check that out. Because it's timely, that's called marketing.
Yeah. It's good.
But like it's just so many times I'm like, oh, that was a really well designed rushing play for CeeDee Lamb that they had. And again, this is a running back room that's not good. I think I could see CeeDee Lamb running the ball like 3 times in this game. So give me the over on like 0.5 rushing yards here for, just a little nice wrinkle for this Cowboys offense.
Oh yeah, it's week 1 too. This is the stuff they're cooking, stuff they're holding, last game of the season, can't hold anything back. First game of the season, can't hold anything back. No, but it's I'm with you because CD's taking jet sweeps. He's good on those. I think that's still part of this offense. Like that's what Sean Harmon again was part of this offensive staff. He knows that as well. So I really like this one. At first I thought it was over half carries, and I was like, oh yeah, I love it even more. But half yards, I just think this is a good one too, and especially how this defense plays with guys off the ball. It's a good scheme answer. So I do think too that is a good answer to this, or a good bet, a good wager. So I love that one. I can't believe it was plus money. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
I know. Yeah, it's BetMGM, by the way, is where all of our props come from.
Yes.
So just that you can get on that right now. Get on that right now because I love it. And true, like off tackle runs for CeeDee Lamb last year, like running back stuff. So Nate, we got to get out of here, but real quickly, does Dallas cover? Final score predictions? Anything in this one?
Ooh, I think Dallas does cover. Maybe like a nice little backdoor cover, but I think the Eagles do start controlling this game in the second half. So maybe Cowboys keep it close, Eagles pull away, then we get a little backdoor cover at the end there.
I say this game goes over and the Eagles win by 10 points. I think that backdoor cover. I don't know with Saquon Barkley being able to control the game on the other side for the Eagles. I think that will definitely be. But these week 1 games are always
over under rushing yards. Saquon Barkley might be the more fun one. Where are you putting that?
It's got to be like, oh my god, it's only 91.5, but minus 120. So this could certainly be a 100-yard game for Saquon Barkley. But
that would be pretty funny.